Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So should we start the class now? The presentation screen is visible to everyone.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we are going to discuss regarding the myocarditis. So what is myocarditis? Myocarditis is also known as inflammatory cardiomyopathy. So basically here myo means myocardium, which denotes cardiac muscle, and itis, whenever it is attached anywhere, it indicates inflammation. Thus, the focal myocarditis is a focal or diffuse. Thus, myocarditis is a focal or diffuse inflammation of the myocardium. And what happens because of this inflammation in long term, most of the patients will either develop a dilated cardiomyopathy or heart failure when the inflammation is significant. So these two, dilated cardiomyopathy and heart failure, are significant long term morbidities associated with it. So, first of all, coming to the layers of heart is composed of three layers. First is epicardium, next is myocardium, and third is endocardium. Endocardium is the inner layer, which is a vascular layer and which comes in contact with the blood, whereas the epicardium is a small, thin plastic-like covering over the heart. Epicardium has two parts: the parietal epicardium and visceral epicardium. In between there are some fat tissues and vacuum-like structure is there, and the main myocardium, which is composed of the cardiac muscle, which is striated muscle, type of a striated muscle, and mainly the largest huge amount of part of cardiac muscles is made from the myocardium. So we are going to discuss this myocarditis in following sections. First, we will discuss regarding the etiologies, then what are the pathogenesis, next clinical features, and lastly coming to the treatment part. This is a very complex etiology or complex disease to understand, because it is not a one disease. It is composed of many disease, many types of conditions, or many types of viruses, bacteria, infections, and some non-infectious causes can cause myocarditis. So basically, you need to understand it is inflammation of cardiac muscle long term, leading to sequelae like dilated cardiomyopathy or heart failure. This is the crux of this lecture, this statement. So first we'll begin with the etiology. Grossly, generally, most commonly it is caused by different infectious or non-infectious triggers. So, what are the various infectious triggers? These are bacterial, fungal, parasitic, or viral. These are the mainly four types of etiologies which cause the infectious type of myocarditis, inflammation of the cardiac muscle. So, apart from that, any type of infection is capable of causing the inflammation of cardiac muscle, but some are more prone. In non-infectious causes, there are mainly two causes: autoimmune or toxic. In autoimmune causes, allergens or antigen-mediated causes are the main causes of myocarditis. Along with that, toxin-mediated like drugs, heavy metal, and miscellaneous. Here is a table where we can discuss in great details infectious myocarditis caused by bacterial, spirochetal, fungal, protozoal, parasitic, rickettsial, and viral infections. We are going to see some bacterial causes. These are common causes like staphylococcus, streptococcus, pneumococcus, meningococcus. Many type of bacteria are mentioned here. One important is mycobacterium. But remember, mycobacterium rarely causes cardiac muscle involvement. It usually causes pericarditis, and in long term leading to sequelae of constrictive pericarditis. So mycobacterium, though it is mentioned, though it is capable of causing myocardial inflammation, but it is not the common cause. Rather than that, staph, strepto, pneumococcus, meningococcus, these are common causes, relatively common causes. Again, we don't see bacterial infection of cardiac muscles frequently. Then next is spirochetal, in which Borrelia or Leptospira are the organisms which can cause. After that, fungal, protozoal, parasitic infections, and rickettsial infections. Rickettsial infection like Coxiella brunetti, Burnetti, then Rickettsia, Rickettsii. Rickettsia Sutsugamushi. These are few of the infection which can cause cardiac muscle involvement. Again, remember these are more commonly cause of a endocardial involvement rather than myocardial. So this causes endocarditis. And lastly, there is viral infections. Important thing to remember here is myocarditis most commonly is caused by viral infections, and most often than not the diagnosis is not made because the symptoms of viral infection are so vague. Patient may present with sore throat, fever, myalgia here and there, not feeling well, and then later on developing symptoms of myocarditis. We are going to see what those symptoms are, but because these viral infections are so many and their symptoms are very vague, very non-specific, so in each situation it is not very necessary or not very practical to find out which virus has caused the preceding infection. So the viral infections are most common causes and not very often diagnosed in cases of myocarditis. Which are the important viruses which cause the infection? These are Coxsackie virus A and B, ecovirus. Another important virus is adenovirus here, parvovirus, and cytomegalovirus. These 4 to 5 names you remember: Coxsackie A and B, then ecovirus, adenovirus, parvovirus, cytomegalovirus. Apart from that, remember HIV can also cause viral myocarditis. Next type of myocarditis is immune mediated myocarditis. It is caused by allergens, alloantigens, or autoantigens. So, which are the allergens which can cause myocardial inflammation? These can be toxoids, vaccines, and any condition which causes serum sickness, such as if you have given patient a blood transfusion, patient will develop immune mediated myocarditis. Alloantigens like heart transplant rejection. Any person has who has undergone heart transplant, that transplanted heart muscles can develop inflammation leading to myocarditis because of the immune attack of the recipient patient. Okay, and autoantigens. These can be infection negative lymphocytic or infection negative giant cells, which are generally autoantigen related immune mediated myocarditis are associated with autoimmune or immune mediated disorders. These are SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, any disease, any autoimmune condition, including thyrotoxicosis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, myasthenia gravis, can cause, and rheumatic heart disease, of course, can cause myocarditis. Okay, so in drugs also remember penicillin is important drug. Others you can forget. So you have to remember broadly the headings of these all causes and 1 or 2 examples in the headings. Last but not least is toxic myocarditis, which again is caused by drugs. Important thing to remember in immune mediated myocarditis, which is caused by drugs, the drugs form haptens, and these haptens act as a antigen against which antibodies are formed by the patient's immune system, and these antibodies go and attack cardiac muscles. Where in toxic myocarditis, the drugs directly affect cardiac muscles and they causes inflammation of these muscles. Which are these drugs? Mainly chemotherapy drugs like cyclophosphamide, fluorouracil, anthracyclines, okay, trastuzumab. These are all chemotherapy drugs. So remember all these names. These can cause toxic myocarditis. Apart from this, heavy metals such as copper, iron, lead, etc., can cause toxic myocarditis. In miscellaneous, scorpion stings, snakes, spider bites, you can remember 1 or 2 conditions from this. And in hormone, remember pheochromocytoma is an important condition where there is a adrenergic hormone secreting tumor which causes cardiac muscle inflammation. Now the same thing I have explained here. This is just to remember few important causes because the last list was very exhausting. So remember few causes from this image and it will be very helpful. This image will be very helpful to remember the causes. Now we'll discuss in short the why, as I have already told few of the points which I have written here. The myocarditis is a common cause. This is the most important statement. Most of the time it is not diagnosed only. Next is in viral myocarditis, Coxsackie virus. Coxsackie A and Coxsackie B are most common cause, but these used to be a most common cause. Nowadays, adenovirus infection is most common cause. Next is a bacterial myocarditis is rare, and most commonly bacterial infection cause endocarditis. So endocarditis like acute endocarditis, subacute bacterial endocarditis, chronic endocarditis, especially patients who are immunosuppressant, who are drug addicts, who take IV drugs. In those patients, right-sided endocarditis can occur. In patients who are having prosthetic wall, all these patients are prone for bacterial endocarditis. And as an extension of this abscess to the myocardium, ultimately they can lead to the myocardial involvement. So you're getting the point. Initially, the bacterial infection will usually involve the innermost layer of the heart, and then it will, because of the contagious spread, it will go and invade the myocardium. Again, I told you this point, tubercular infections, these are usually affecting pericardium. Now you have seen that bacterial infections involve endocardium, but tubercular infections usually involve pericardium, causing pericarditis and constructive changes. These ultimately lead to fibrosis, and this fibrosis then invades into the myocardium, causing constrictive pericarditis. So in bacterial and tubercular infections, myocarditis does occur, but it is not as a direct pathogenic mechanism. It is as a sequelae of the initial pathogenetic mechanisms of these infections. Most cases diagnosis cannot be made, and in this cases, prior viral infections are the most common triggers for the development of myocarditis. And also remember, most viral myocarditis is also caused by autoimmune mechanism. We are going to discuss what it does means. Um, the most autoimmune diseases such as RA, SLE, systemic sclerosis, myositis, all any type of autoimmune disease can involve myocardium, and cause a low grade chronic myocarditis. So as compared to the viral myocarditis, as compared to the granulomatous myocarditis, these autoimmune diseases usually do not cause symptomatic myocarditis. So patient will not have symptoms, but if you check cardiac enzymes, if you do investigation, dig deep enough, you will find that this patient will having low grade chronic ongoing myocarditis. Okay, so remember this as a one of a important cause, not very significant important treatment wise or symptom wise to the patient. Now, what is the pathophysiology? How does this cardiac inflammation leads to damage to the cardiac tissues and symptoms to the patients? So, what we are going to discuss mainly is pertaining to the viral myocarditis, because it is the most common myocarditis. So, there is a domino effect initially in pathophysiology of myocarditis because of the viral infection. Patients initially will have a viral infection. They will have a constitutional symptoms like fatigue, malaise, etc., etc., along with any specific viral infection. For example, if the patient is having adenovirus infection, they will develop lymphadenopathies. If the patient is having Coxsackie infection, they can have diarrhea, malaise, fever, etc. These even dengue can cause myocarditis. So in dengue patient, what will be patient be having? Humpback fever, high grade fever, back pain, myalgias, arthralgias. All these symptoms can these patient have. So this viral infection can causes inflammation and injury and of the cardiac muscles, that causes decreased myocardial contractility. Because of the decreased myocardial contractility and inflammation of the cardiac muscles, the cardiac tissue enlarge. So there is a cardiac dilatation. Also, that leads to left ventricular uh, ejection, the end diastolic volume, LVEDV, is left ventricular end diastolic volume. So there is an increase in the end diastolic volume. This all changes leads to decreased cardiac output, and decreased cardiac output, as we all know, leads to congestive heart failure. So if it is left sided, it will generally present with pulmonary edema. If the congestive heart failure predominantly involves right side, then the patient will have um, generalized edema and hepatomegaly and deranged liver function tests. Again, this increase in left ventricular end diastolic volume will cause increase in left atrial pressure will be increased. That will lead to back pressure into the pulmonary arteries, pulmonary veins, and that will lead to pulmonary edema, as I have already told. Also, this inflammation and injury to the myocardium, when it heals by scarring. So this scarring causes formation of this abnormal scar tissue. This can be a focal trigger points for development of the dysarrhythmias. So patient can have conduction blocks or ventricular tachycardias or ventricular dysarrhythmias. So all this can occur as a sequelae. So we have discussed viral infection, most common cause of myocarditis. It leads to cardiac enlargement, decreased output, symptoms, ultimately ending either in arrhythmias or heart failure. These are the two most common causes of long-term sequelae. This is another image which shows the various phases through which the myocarditis develops. So first, in acute myocarditis, whenever the viral infection is ongoing, there is a direct involvement of cardiac muscles by the virus causing myocyte necrosis. So cardiac muscle cells undergo necrosis. Also, because of the viral infection, some cytokines are released and this causes macrophage activation. So blood monocytes which are circulating throughout the body, they get activated and enter cardiac tissue. In cardiac tissue, they secrete various other cytokines, important of which are, always remember this, interleukin 1, 2, TNF and interferon gamma. In any acute inflammation, these 4 to 5 are the main cytokines which are released everywhere. So in cardiac tissue also, macrophage gets activated in the cardiac tissue and they release interleukin 1, 2, TNF alpha and interferon gamma. So this itself causes acute viral myocarditis. Uh, but ultimately, there is a stimulation of natural killer cells. Now, natural killer cells, always remember, these are a cytotoxic cells. Cytotoxic means they are toxic to the cells. So these cells enter cardiac tissue and they damage cardiac muscles. Say the necrotic muscle is removed, all the cardiac muscles, there is a penia of muscle. So myopenia, cardiac muscle volume decreases. Also, it secretes nitric oxide that causes venodilatation and vasodilatation around the cardiac muscular areas. Along with the natural killer cells, there is a secretion, there is a constellation with T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. B lymphocytes have generally neutralizing antibodies, so B lymphocytes are protective, have a speed breaker effect on the ongoing myocarditis. This phase, which can last from anywhere from 4 days to 14 days, is generally a subacute myocarditis. Comes under this term. And after 14 days, there is resolution of viral infection. As we all know, after viral infections are safely limiting, antibodies are formed in the blood. These antibodies are neutralizing to the virus, so virus is ultimately removed. But the after removal of virus, whatever inflammation is there, it subsides, but the damage heals by fibrosis. And when the cardiac muscle heals by fibrosis, there is always risk of development of arrhythmias. Also, this acute process leads to cardiac dilatation that causes heart failure. So all these symptoms generally are seen after 14 days. But if the inflammation is severe, these can be seen from anywhere from this 0 days to up to 90 days. Later on, with time, the body heals and symptoms slowly resolve, leading behind some long-term sequelae. So this we have seen now the what are the pathophysiological mechanisms which leads to the cardiac muscle damage. But how the patient will present? Remember that many patients, especially those who are having underlying autoimmune conditions, these can be asymptomatic. Low grade chronic myocarditis may go undetected in these patients and special investigations may be required for diagnosis of this condition. But whenever the patient is having viral myocarditis, viral infection associated myocarditis, the initial symptoms are obviously virus infection related. These are constitutional symptoms like fatigue, fever, myalgias, arthralgias, or some specific virus related symptoms such as pharyngitis, arthralgias. If you do blood investigation, cytopenias like decrease in WBC count or platelet counts can be seen. Next is mild dyspnea on exertion or at rest because of the cardiac reserve decreases, muscle contractility decreases, cardiac output decreases. Patient will start feeling dyspnea. It will lead to decreased left ventricular outflow, and that causes congestion in the pulmonary system because of the increased in left atrial pressures. So chest congestion, cough, dry cough or cough with expectoration, all these symptoms can come. And because of this congestion, and usually because of the associated pericarditis. So remember, the pericarditis is an important cause of chest pain. We need to differentiate, so much important that we need to differentiate the chest pain because of the pericarditis from MI. So patient can also present with the pericarditis like chest pain. Important characteristic feature of acute pericarditis chest pain, it resolves after bending forward. So this is one key point, but not present in all the patients. Later, if severe, patient can progress to frank heart failure. Heart failure signs will be patient will be gasping for air. He will have pulmonary congestion. Pink frothy sputum because of the pulmonary edema can come. If you check the oxygen saturation, it will be low. Patient will be pale, anxious, and will be having severe diaphoresis and will require urgent attention, even intubation for management. If the fibrosis develops in long term, it will lead to arrhythmias, which can present with the palpitation, syncope, or heart failure, etc. Some patients may also present to progress to cardiogenic shock, and also sudden death have been denoted because of this acute severe myocarditis. So remember all these symptoms. But note, in all this, apart from the preceding trigger related symptoms, which may or may not be specific, no other symptom is specific to myocarditis. So we will only know that patient is suffering from some heart condition and which is leading to symptoms. It is the clinician's skill to go back, ask the history, and make the correlation or temporal association to diagnose a case of myocarditis. Okay, so we have discussed till now the clinical features. I am just run through this important types of myocarditis. Myocarditis can be made. So it is important because clinically it leads to a rapidly progressive heart failure, and ultimately tachyarrhythmias or conduction block can also be seen in these patients. So therefore it is important. Next is Chagas disease. Chagas disease obviously is not seen in India. Here in INSET, I have posted a word map where we can see in Australia, in northern and southern America regions, it can be seen. So most commonly it is in South America. So it is also called as North American or South American trypanosomiasis and Trypanosomia cruzi and Trypanosoma bruzi. These are the two parasitic organisms, parasitic infections which cause this disease, Chagas disease, and it is caused by bite of a reduvid bug. This is the reduvid bug, and it is also called as kissing bug because this bites on the face of people when they are asleep. So therefore it is also called as kissing bug. Symptoms and sign again are simple as we have discussed. There is no difference, but Chagas disease have its own symptoms. These other organ involvement can also be seen. And treatment is usually heart failure medications and benzimidazole or nifurtimox. These are specific drugs which act against the parasite. These can also be given in this condition. Next is autoimmune disorders. These are usually underreported, not the autoimmune disorders per se, but the occurrence of myocardial inflammation in these autoimmune disorders is underreported. Next is more commonly these are associated with pericardial inflammation and pericardial effusion. So you see the terminology is used in this patient as serositis. So pleural or pleuropericardial effusion can be seen in these patients, but myocarditis usually it is subclinical, and therefore patients are asymptomatic and not diagnosed with it. But whenever there is a myocardial infection, this myocardial inflammation, it is characterized by a good response to steroid. And we have already discussed which condition it is associated with. These are RA, SLE, myositis, systemic sclerosis, etc. Now coming to the diagnosis, the diagnosis is mainly clinical. As I have already told you, that symptoms are not at all specific for these conditions. So the diagnosis is clinical, and cause is many of a time the cause is not found. What has caused the myocarditis? So it is presumed usually that cause is preceding viral infection, which had gone unnoticed and which has caused myocarditis. But important findings we can see in ECG and 2D echo. ECG, if there are signs of heart failure, we can see, but 2D echo, it is very important because it can also rule out other causes. It rules out coronary artery disease. What we see in myocarditis particularly is global hypokinesia. So here I have put a image of 2D echo. It is a GIF image, GIF of 2D echo, where we can see the cardiac muscles contracting. This is the left ventricle, this is the right ventricle, this is the left atrium, this is the right atrium. So you don't need to diagnose the myocarditis on 2D echo, but just see here, just for the understanding I have put this. See how the ventricles are contracting. Both the walls are closing in. There is no slowing of the cardiac contractility, or there is no abnormal motion of a particular region of the cardiac tissue, particularly ventricles. So this is normal. But what happens in myocarditis? There is global hypokinesia. So the trained sonologist or cardiologist can detect that heart is not contracting with the force and with the speed that it is supposed to contract normally. So there is global hypokinesia. Kinesia is movement, hypo is less. So global, it occurs in a diffuse pattern. Okay. So how to differentiate this from coronary artery disease? As we know, heart is supplied by two main coronary arteries, left and right, and there are various branches. So particular branch supplies to a particular part of the cardiac tissue. So suppose at the base, if the artery is supplying at the base of the heart tissue, and it is infarcted. So in myocardial infarction, a particular part of ventricle will not contract properly. That condition in 2D echo is called as RWMA, regional wall motion abnormality. So points to remember here: 2D echo, important to rule out other causes, especially coronary artery disease. And in acute myocarditis, there is global hypokinesia. Okay. Also, what other points we can see in 2D echo is the chamber dilatation. So cardiac chambers, ventricles will get dilated. We can measure the dimensions of the ventricle using 2D echo. Next is regurgitant lesions. Because of the dilatation of the lesion, this ring of the ventricular wall also dilates, and walls become leaky, generally regurgitant flows. And arrhythmias can also be seen. Heart is not contracting rhythmically. That can also be interpreted on 2D echo. Next is the cardiac MRI. It is a novel investigation technique where one can see the infiltration in cardiac tissue or any fatty degeneration of the cardiac tissue as a sequelae of the acute myocarditis. But it is very difficult to perform. Patients needs to stay. There needs to be a special software in the MRI machine we need to use, and special technical assistance is also required. And also it is not available and it is not cheap. So cardiac MRI usually is not used for the diagnosis of the acute myocarditis. Next are the cardiac biomarkers. These are CPK, troponins, trop I, trop T. These can be used for evaluation of cardiac myocarditis, but these are non-specific. Important point to remember: any condition which damages any cardiac tissue, be it pericardium, myocardium, endocardium, all these condition will lead to some or more increase in cardiac biomarkers in the blood. So whether the CPK or troponin, they can get increased in various other conditions, including myocardial infarction, MI also. So these are very non-specific. But the gold standard for the diagnosis of myocarditis is endomyocardial biopsy, and it uses the Dallas criteria for diagnosis. These were introduced in 1986 for diagnosis of pericarditis, and these are based on the endomyocardial biopsy specimens. So these can divide myocarditis into acute myocarditis, borderline or ongoing myocarditis, and negative for myocarditis. Basically, it evaluates the presence of infiltratory lymphocytes and myocytolysis. What is this? Infiltrating lymphocytes, infiltrating macrophages, lymphocytes. These are inflammatory cells infiltrating the cardiac tissue. And second, it sees myocytolysis. So cardiac cell destruction, myocytolysis. These should be there to diagnose as a active myocarditis. On borderline or ongoing myocarditis, if infiltrate is there but though no myocytolysis, and negative if none of these above is seen, then it is negative for myocarditis. So these are the Dallas criteria for diagnosis of myocarditis. And how this endocardial endomyocardial biopsy is done is, we have already seen multiple times that the catheters can be introduced from the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava here in through internal jugular vein through superior vena cava. It approaches right atrium and right ventricle, from where, from the apex, from the cardiac apex or base, the biopsy can be done. Now coming to the management part, I am not going to go into the great details of management. What is important is there are two aspects of the management. First is treatment of the underlying cause if it is identified, and second is non-specific cardiac related treatment, which is common for many other cardiac conditions. So what are the treatment for underlying cause? Viral infection, we all know there is no specific treatment for any virus. For suppose influenza viral infection is there, some of the drugs which are available, amantadine, then oseltamivir, etc., can be considered, but these are of no clinical symptomatically beneficial. So a viral infection, no specific treatment. TB, if we have diagnosed, we can give anti-tubercular therapy. Chagas disease, we have discussed which drug, nifurtimox and benzimidazole. And in autoimmune diseases, steroids and immunosuppressant drugs, such as cyclophosphamide, azathioprine, etc., can be considered. If the toxins or any specific cardiotoxic drugs are identified as a causative agent, you have to stop these medicines or remove any causative toxic medicine. Okay. Now coming to the non-specific treatment, these are very simple and logistic, uses common logic, such as most important is bed rest, avoid strenuous activities, avoid weightlifting. If the patient is having high blood pressure, control the blood pressure. Basically, we have to reduce the load on heart. So blood pressure decreases after load, oxygen supplements to maintain the saturation. Diuretics should be given to decrease the preload of over the heart. Digoxin used as a positive inotropic agent. If the cardiac output ejection fraction is decreased, in certain situation it can be used to enhance the cardiac contractility. And always remember, even if the diagnosis is not made, a short course of steroid trial is given to the patient to see if there is any reversible cardiac inflammation. So not in a large volume, because steroid itself can cause fluid retention, edema, and hypertension. That all things will lead to increase in myocardial strain, and it can worsen the myocarditis. Therefore, a small dose for small duration is given, and Then 2D echo is repeated to see whether any function of the heart improves. So trial of steroid is also a non-specific treatment, and it can be specific if underlying autoimmune condition is diagnosed, and treatment of associated arrhythmias such as drugs, defibrillation, or ablation if any arrhythmias are diagnosed. So these are the various treatment of the myocarditis. Okay, so thank you. This was all. And if anybody has any doubt or has not understand anything regarding myocarditis, please ask. Hello.
No doubt, sir.
No doubt, sir.
So everybody understood everything.
So we will read it once.
Okay,
Then
okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
But you have got a brief idea what myocarditis is and how it,
Yes, sir.
what are the symptoms, what are the causes, etc. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So Jaiswal sir is here or he has left?
Yes, sir. We here.
So, sir, we have finished before time today. I don't know,
No,
it was a bit fast. Okay,
okay,
sir.
sir.
So we should stop now.
No, it's all right.
Yeah. Okay, so, sir, I will be stopping my presentation from my side. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.